A new immigration law just passed, and it's raising serious concerns for millions of U.S. citizens. If you think your citizenship is permanent and can't be taken away, think again. This law introduces 5 shocking new reasons someone can actually lose their U.S. citizenship, and some of them are so surprising, most people don't even know they're at risk. Let's be clear. We're not just talking about undocumented immigrants or people trying to get a green card. This law affects naturalized citizens, people who legally became U.S. citizens, and in some cases, even dual citizens who've been living in the U.S. for decades. For example, did you know that if the government finds out you gave false information on any immigration form, even 30 years ago, you could be stripped of your citizenship, even if it was a simple mistake? Or that being affiliated with a certain organization, donating to a group that's later flagged, or even traveling to a specific country could trigger legal action under this law. It sounds unbelievable, but it's real. And if you think, this can't happen to me, you're exactly who needs to watch this video. This isn't fear-mongering. This is about staying informed and protected. In this video, I'll walk you through all 5 shocking reasons the government can now use to revoke U.S. citizenship in plain language with real-life examples and what steps you can take to avoid trouble. So before you scroll away, do this. Tap that like button to support this important content. The more likes this video gets, the more people YouTube will show it to, and the more lives we can help protect. Let's get into it. Here are the 5 shocking reasons you could lose your U.S. citizenship under the new law. You hit that like button. Thank you for stepping up and helping this video reach more people who need to see it. Now, imagine yourself relaxing and really leaning into this conversation, because what comes next might just change how you think about your citizenship and your security in this country. We're talking about a new immigration law that has quietly introduced 5 shocking reasons you could lose your U.S. citizenship, even if you thought it was rock solid. And in a moment, I want to walk through each one with you in everyday language, stories you can relate to, examples that feel personal, and most importantly, what you can do to protect yourself. Let's begin by considering the small but dangerous world of immigration form mistakes. Picture this. Many of you filled out forms decades ago, N-400s, visas, affidavits. Maybe you misdated something, skipped a box, or wrote an old address. You moved on with life, built families, communities, jobs. Before, those mistakes probably didn't matter. Now, this new law allows immigration authorities to dig into those old files and label those tiny errors as material misrepresentation, which is legal code for a grounds to revoke citizenship. You might think, I've been a citizen for 20 years. Why now? But the government can argue that what matters is what your application said, not what you intended. Suddenly, even a simple memory lapse or misprint becomes a threat to your status. That's enough to cause anyone's chest to tighten thinking about the possibility of losing a citizenship you've lived fully for years. Now consider affiliations you may have had that once felt harmless or generous. Maybe you volunteered with an international refugee group, sponsored a student, donated to an overseas charity. You acted out of kindness, solidarity, common humanity. But this law defines affiliation so broadly that if an organization you supported years ago is later flagged, you could be retroactively tied to it in a serious way. Imagine supporting what you thought was a peace-promoting NGO and later learning governments view it as a security concern. That alone becomes a trigger. And because it's retrospective, there is no warning, no opportunity to disengage before the fallout. If you gave a small donation or showed up at one event, that might be enough under this law. It's startling, but that's how powerful these new rules are. Then there's the travel issue, which might hit home for many of you who have roots around the world. Let's say you traveled to visit a relative in a country that later became formally designated by the U.S. as adversarial or sanctioned. Under the new rules, that trip could be interpreted as voluntarily seeking the protection of a foreign state, which some argue counts as renouncing citizenship. You may have thought you were visiting family, attending a once-in-a-lifetime reunion, or going for medical treatment. Years later, the places you visited get reclassified, and suddenly, your travel log becomes a problem. There's no criminal intent in going somewhere you considered benign, but the law doesn't necessarily care about intent. It cares about presence in places deemed sensitive. That's enough to make travel logs feel heavy and precarious. Another area that often goes overlooked is service in foreign governments, even in a minor role. Many of you may have helped abroad in low-level staff positions, diplomatic functions, teaching positions, foreign aid roles. Perhaps you accompanied a spouse or worked for an NGO tied to a government. Until now, these roles were often seen as benign or civic-minded service, not the kind of thing that puts citizenship at risk. Now, the law's wording covers any form of service for a foreign government, even non-paid, honorary, or short-term. So if you took a voluntary diplomatic aid role 30 years ago, sponsors of an event abroad, or advisory positions, that might be enough to trigger scrutiny. That prospect feels surreal when all this was once counted as cultural exchange or community support. The final shocker is involvement in criminal behavior overseas. Even if you were never convicted in the US, reports or allegations abroad could be enough. Under this law, involvement or alleged involvement in serious crimes, think human trafficking, terrorism-related activity, or other egregious acts, could allow the government to strip citizenship without the same standard of proof required in criminal courts. They might rely on intelligence summaries, foreign convictions, or hearsay testimony. This doesn't mean you're guilty, only that once citizenship is revoked, deportation proceedings can begin. The emotional weight of that situation is immense. Imagine years of life in America being undone by allegations you weren't even aware could bring such a penalty. That's why this law has many naturalized citizens feeling stunned and anxious. Taken one at a time, these may feel remote, but together they create an unpredictable landscape: old paperwork, unintended affiliations, travel history, foreign service, alleged foreign wrongdoing, all now routes to potential revocation. It's not about guilt or bad intent. It's about narrow legal definitions that sweep broad into people's lives. Senior citizens, specifically, who may have older records, deep generational ties abroad, generous hearts, are among the most likely to feel vulnerable to this change. Then think back to any foreign service, formal or informal. If you accepted a diplomat's invitation, taught at a foreign government school, or served in a volunteer treaty project, gather any correspondence, contracts, thank you letters, or official approvals. If your role was civil and not political, make that explicit in your documentation. Context matters. Were you paid? Did you take an oath to another country? Or was it strictly cultural, educational, humanitarian? That clarity can be your shield. And if you ever had any brushes with allegations abroad, no matter how resolved, seek documentation showing you were cleared, investigated, or found no wrongdoing. Foreign police or embassies might issue statements confirming no charges were filed or that courts decline cases. Legal assistance can help you request these. Having these statements translated and certified can be one of your strongest defenses if your citizenship is questioned. This all may feel overwhelming, especially if you've lived in the US for decades and never worried about any of this. But that's exactly why doing the work now matters. Ignoring the issue because nothing has happened so far is what risks complacency. The best defense is clarity and documentation, and sharing that knowledge with others here in your community, friends, family, civic groups, senior centers. Spread the word so others aren't blindsided. If you're feeling concerned, know that there are resources and legal professionals ready to help. Accredited attorneys specializing in citizenship law can assist in pulling your records, reviewing your case, even drafting affidavits or records requests. Some immigrant rights organizations offer support or referrals, even free initial consultations. And sharing this video and giving it a thumbs up is one way you're not just protecting yourself, but others in your circle who may be unaware. As you continue watching, get ready for real-life stories of people facing these challenges, and follow along explanations of how proper documentation can change outcomes. We'll also share resources like template letters to request records or embassy statements, info on getting immigration file copies from USCIS or the National Archives, and guides for reaching qualified legal help. I'll help you feel equipped, not anxious, by the end. Remember that citizenship isn't just a legal status, it's the culmination of your life, your journey, your contributions. The law may place new hurdles, but your life story, your records, your transparency, and your persistence are your truest defense. So if at any moment you feel overwhelmed, take a deep breath. You're not alone. Every step you take now protects not just you, but everyone who cares about you. Thank you for trusting me with this deep dive. And if you're still with me, please make sure to show your support with that like button. Your engagement ensures important information reaches seniors and naturalized citizens who might be vulnerable and unaware. Let's keep going now into those personal stories and real examples, where we'll see how preparation can change the outcome of every risk we've discussed, starting right now.